Hi, today we're going to take a look at the MSI Creator M16 2022 version. This is part of the Amazon Vine Voice review program. So let's get into it. What you have is a fairly modern CPU, Core i7, 12th generation. What's really nice is it's got a discrete graphics card, NVIDIA 3060 with 6 gig of VRAM. It's pretty well equipped with 32 gig of RAM, DDR4 3200. Very nice. It's got a terabyte drive and a QHD display, and it's really focused on content creation accuracy, color accuracy versus speed, but 60 hertz is still pretty good, all things considered. Comes standard with Windows 11. Again, from a color space perspective, it's really accurate. I'm running on the background here. In the box, just basic stuff that you would expect. Keyboard, couple quick start guides. The quick start guide is nice. It has in there what all the shortcuts are, all the hotkeys are, if you need that. So again, I just want to reiterate a couple things in case it's important to you. Again, it doesn't take away from the laptop per se. It just depends on what you want to use it for. So the ports on the right are actually Gen 2. I tested this. I'll show you the test results in a second. And on the left, we've got a Gen 1, and we also have a 2.0. So don't worry about it if you need high-speed data transfer. 10 gigabits per second is decent transfer speed, and pretty much all you're going to get anyway for most external docking stations, except for the most expensive. So it does have a Type-C port, but there's no video ported out of that. So the only video that you have, again going back to the website screenshots, is one HDMI port. So that means out of the box, based on the default connectivity, you're limited to the internal display and one external display, and that's it. If you want to use 2, 3, 4 displays, you've got to come up with a different solution. So some other interesting things, not quite showstoppers, but as I mentioned, it's got an internal 1 terabyte NVMe drive, and it's a PCI Gen 4. So that's fantastic. What's not quite as fantastic, and it's not horrible, if you look at the performance speed of this drive, and it matches what I see on websites in terms of just this disk drive specifically, even though it's a PCI 4 NVMe drive, the speeds are only a little bit better than PCI 3s. So it's interesting to me that for a graphic intensive creator laptop, they decided to put in kind of an underperforming Gen 4 drive. It's still fine. It's still very fast, and most people are not going to know the difference. But if you want, absolute fastest performance out of your NVMe drive, you're going to have to swap that out with something else. Again, it's a 12th generation. This is the slightly slower of the 12th generation that is available in this laptop, but you've got to trade off either a faster CPU and a 3050 GPU or slightly slower CPU and a 3060. I wholly recommend going with the 3060. That extra little bit of VRAM is going to make all the difference in most of your applications. But that means you're limited to 16 threads instead of some of the higher thread counts. The other thing I've seen some confusion on is the RAM. So you can clearly see it's a DDR4 3200 RAM by Hynix. But some people are getting confused because it reports as 1600 megahertz. This is typical. 3200 means effective 3200, not actual 3200. And they're processing 2 bits in every cycle, and that's how you get effective 3200. So. But again, you've got the 3060 GPU, which makes all the difference in the world, and 6 gigabytes makes all the difference in the world versus a 4 gigabyte that you find on some of the other drives. So if you're into specs, the specs are all here. And just for fun and kind of interestingly, so if I run this on the Heaven benchmark, you can see that we're getting about 100 frames per second, bursting up to 200 frames per second. So for casual gaming, which is what I used to have in benchmark for, perfectly fine. You're not going to have any issues with that at all. If you go a little bit more heavy duty and you want to actually run the superposition benchmark, which really, you know, maxes everything out, um, it's not horrible, right? You're averaging 30, 40 frames per second. And so if you think of your very heavy graphic intensive games, um, it's playable, right? But you're probably not going to get the performance you want out of it, at least with a 3060. But again, you start trimming things down and going to medium and low settings. It's a perfectly acceptable gaming laptop. Geez, what else can I tell you about it? That pretty much is it. It does what it's supposed to do. It is a huge fingerprint magnet. So I've used it about 2 days. I got fingerprints all over it. It's not like I'm eating Cheetos or anything sitting around here. It does go completely flat. So if you wanted to show something to somebody, you can do that on flat, but it's not touchscreen and there's no default pen devices for it. So be aware of that. It does not bend backwards unless you want to break the hinges, which I don't recommend. But all in all, it's a competent performer. It's really loaded, right? If you think about 32 gig of high-speed memory, um, you think about you know, the um, RAM that it has, the NVMe that it has, this primary storage that it has. It's a pretty decent system. I'd have no problems recommending it for what it is, right? You get a lot for the money. Capacity, the capability, it's all there. If you just, you know, if you want a rocket, this is not a rocket, right? But it's a good all-around performer for just about any use case that you want to throw at it. Again, casual gaming, everyday office computer, and certainly content creation. You've got a lot of real estate here. No worry about external storage, external backups, moving large graphic files back and forth on and off the system. That's long. I'm sorry. There's a lot to it, but that's it. That's all she wrote. Have a good day.